The wind howled like a warning across the vast white hills. Snow clawed at her face, stinging her cheeks until they turned frostbitten blue. She stood barefoot before the heavy oak door, hair tangled, breath trembling, voice breaking against the blizzard. "Please, let me in." Inside, lights glowed warm and golden, spilling laughter through the frosted windows. Crystal glasses clinked. Their laughter rose cruel, sharp, echoing off marble walls. Through the glass, she saw him, Ryan Hale, her husband standing close to his mistress, a woman in red silk holding champagne. His smirk cut through the glass like a blade. The lock clicked. The sound was small, but it ended everything. She pressed her frozen hands against the pane, whispering, this was her home. Her home. But to him, she was a trespasser, a beggar left in the storm. He turned away, whispering something that made the mistress laugh louder. Outside, the white fury raged. Inside, they toasted to her absence. And as she sank to her knees, snow burying her footprints, she realized the cold wasn't the worst part. The worst part was knowing he'd done it on purpose. What Ryan didn't know, what no one in that glowing house understood, was that the home he'd locked her out of still belonged to her, legally, secretly, entirely. And when this storm was over, the woman he called worthless would return not as a victim, but as the owner of the $80 million estate he thought was his. Because tonight, he locked out his own downfall. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we begin, please click subscribe. Every single click helps us tell stories of courage and truth. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Because when we share these stories together, we remind each other that even in pain, we can rise. The wind howled through the long marble driveway, carrying shards of snow that stung like knives. Emma Hale's fingers were frostbitten, trembling as she pounded on the heavy oak door. Ryan, please, open the door. Her voice broke into the blizzard, lost beneath the white fury of the night. Through the frosted window, she could see them. Ryan Hale, tall, sharp-jawed in a silk shirt, and Vanessa Cole, his assistant turned mistress, wrapped in red satin, holding champagne. Lights glowed warm and golden behind them. The scene looked almost royal if not for the cruelty dripping from Ryan's smirk. He mouthed one word through the glass. Pathetic. The lock clicked. That small sound was louder than the storm itself. Emma froze. Snow clawed at her face as if the night itself wanted her gone. Her knees buckled, but she caught herself, whispering, this was her home. Her home. She had spent 7 years polishing its railings, tending its gardens, hosting dinners that made him look like a king. And now, she stood outside it like a trespasser, like a beggar in her own life. Inside, their laughter rang out, mocking every shiver. Mrs. Grant, the elderly neighbor across the road, peeked through her curtain. Her eyes widened, her phone clutched tight. She wanted to help but feared Ryan's reputation, his wealth, his power. The man owned half the town through Hale Group Holdings. She whispered to herself. He's gone too far this time. Emma pressed her hand against the frosted glass, leaving a pale mark. She remembered the last words he said before storming out that morning. You don't need a job anymore. Focus on the house. Focus on me. At the time, it sounded like love. Now it felt like control. Her reflection in the glass looked unrecognizable. Small, invisible, worthless. She had let him decide what she wore, where she went, who she called. He had monitored her phone, questioned every purchase, and called her ungrateful when she resisted. Slowly, he turned love into obedience, trust into gaslighting. The storm worsened. Her lips turned pale, her hands raw. She tried again, tapping the window. Pain, whispering, Ryan, please, it's freezing. You can't do this. But Ryan only turned to Vanessa, brushing her hand with his. They both laughed as she sank to her knees, humiliated, erased from the warmth she once created. Then the pain dulled. The cold began to numb her completely. But before her mind faded, she saw something, a painting above the dining room mantel. It was her late grandfather's portrait. His eyes seemed to stare back at her through the window, almost alive. A memory flickered. His voice years ago, gentle but firm. Emma, if the world ever turns against you, remember what I hid for you. The deed protects more than just walls. The storm nearly killed her, but that memory sparked something stronger than fear. She looked up once more, whispering into the snow. "You'll regret this, Ryan. You took everything from me except the truth." Somewhere deep inside that mansion, buried under forged documents and legal lies, a secret still bore her name, and it would soon destroy him. The dining hall gleamed with silverware and crystal chandeliers, but the air inside was sharp and cold, colder than the storm that would come weeks later. Forks clinked softly, glasses sparkled with champagne, and fake smiles stretched like thin glass. Ryan Hale sat at the head of the long table, smirk fixed, power radiating from his every move. Vanessa Cole, his newly hired assistant, sat beside him, her red dress glittering under the light, like a queen in a palace built on lies. "Emma," Ryan said, swirling his drink, "your parents and I were just discussing your future." His voice was calm, too calm. That tone always meant danger. Emma, seated quietly beside her mother Linda Rivers, forced a smile. "My future?" Ryan leaned back, eyes glinting. "You don't need to worry about business anymore. You've done your part. From now on, focus on the house. Focus on me." A nervous silence spread. Her father, Charles, a man who once adored Ryan's ambition, stared down at his plate. Neither spoke. Neither defended her. Vanessa's red lips curved. "He's right, Emma. You've been so stressed lately. You deserve rest. Maybe you can start painting again?" Her tone was sweet, mocking every shiver of emotion Emma tried to hide. Emma looked around the room, the grand ballroom where they once hosted charity galas, now filled with strangers wearing masks of loyalty. "So that's what this is about?" she whispered. "You're cutting me out," Ryan laughed, short and cruel. "Cutting you out? No, my love, just giving you freedom." His hand brushed Vanessa's under the table, quick, careless, but deliberate. The lights glowed warm and golden, but inside, Emma's world dimmed. Her parents exchanged uneasy glances. Ryan's words kept echoing. "Every penny you have comes from me anyway." That wasn't true. Deep inside, Emma knew something he didn't. Her grandfather's legal documents, the original property transfers, still listed her maiden name. But Ryan had taken over every account, every signature, every transaction. 2 days earlier, she had caught him standing in his study with forged papers, muttering to Vanessa, "Once these are signed, she's finished." But when she confronted him, he called her unstable and paranoid. Emma's hands shook. She stared at her father. "Dad, is this what you agreed to?" Charles cleared his throat. "Ryan just wants what's best for you." The words stung more than the betrayal. "So, you'd rather sell your daughter's name for comfort?" she said quietly. Ryan's smirk widened. "Don't make us choose between you and survival." The table fell silent. Vanessa sipped her champagne, eyes glimmering with victory. Emma stood, pushing her chair back slowly. "You're all making a mistake." Ryan's voice followed her like a knife. "Maybe this will teach you obedience." Her chest tightened. She looked at her mother one last time. "Mom, if you stay silent, one day you'll watch him destroy everything you love too." Emma walked out of the dining hall, the sound of her heels echoing like a countdown. Outside the frosted window, the wind howled faintly, a whisper of what was coming. Inside, Vanessa leaned close to Ryan and whispered, "She still doesn't know the estate's still under her name." Ryan's smirk froze. "What did you say?" Vanessa smiled, slow and dangerous. "Nothing. Yet." The phone buzzed violently on the nightstand, jolting Emma awake. Before she could reach it, Ryan Hale snatched it up first. His tone was sharp, his eyes cold. "Who's calling you at this hour?" "It's the school," she murmured, still half asleep. "They're confirming my charity visit tomorrow." Ryan's smirk was thin and dangerous. "Charity? Without my approval?" He tossed the phone aside, the screen cracking as it hit the oak floor. "Ryan, you can't keep—" "I can and I will." His voice dropped lower. "You don't understand what obedience means, Emma. You need to learn it." The room fell silent except for the wind howling outside. He turned away, adjusting his cufflinks like a man preparing for war. "Paul will handle your schedule from now on," he said. Moments later, Paul Rivers, a timid young man in a gray suit, entered with a leather folder. He worked as Ryan's private assistant, quiet and loyal, too loyal. "Morning, Mrs. Hale," Paul said carefully, placing legal documents on the table. "Mr. Hale needs your signature on these for accounting purposes." Emma frowned, flipping through the pages. These are property transfers. Why is my name missing? Ryan didn't blink. It's standard practice. Simplifies taxes. You'll thank me later. Her eyes scanned the fine print. There it was again, her signature, forged in black ink. Ryan, she whispered, holding up the papers. You signed. My name. That's illegal. He laughed, low and mocking. You're being paranoid, Emma. You signed it last week, remember? Or are you forgetting things again? The word paranoid hit her like ice. He'd used it before every time she caught him lying. Every time he wanted her to question her own mind. Vanessa Cole entered, perfume, thick and sweet. Oh, Emma, she said, voice dripping with pity. You really should rest. You look unstable. Gaslighting. That's what Clara, her old friend and lawyer, once called it. Emma remembered the warning. Men like him rewrite truth until you forget your own. The walls of the grand house felt smaller now, the air thinner. Ryan leaned against the window, staring out at the snow beginning to fall. This estate only means something if you know your place. You should be grateful, Emma. Most women would beg for this life. Her pulse raced. Most women wouldn't live like a prisoner. Ryan turned slowly, his eyes cold. Careful what you say or I'll cut you off completely. Foreshadow flash, Paul shifted nervously, avoiding her gaze. His hand brushed the folder again. A faint red fingerprint smeared across it from when Emma's cut finger had bled earlier that morning. That print would become her silent witness later. Ryan poured himself champagne, smirking. Go on, sign them. Be a good wife. Emma met his eyes and whispered, Not this time. Paul's phone buzzed, a message flashed briefly on screen before he silenced it. It read, Documents sent to Hale Group. Transfer live in 48 hours. Emma saw it. Her blood ran cold. The morning sun hit the frosted window of the downtown bank, casting dull light on the marble floor. Emma Hale's heart pounded as she handed her bank card to the teller. I'd like to withdraw $5,000, please. Mrs. Lacey, a kind woman in her 50s with tired eyes, smiled politely. Of course, ma'am. She typed Emma's details into the screen. A small pause. Then her face changed. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hale. Your card was declined. Emma frowned. That can't be right. Try again. Mrs. Lacey nodded, swiped again. I'm sorry. Another card declined. The words echoed like thunder. Emma's stomach twisted. Could you check my account balance? The teller hesitated, lowered her voice. It says here your accounts were recently transferred to an entity called Hale Group Holdings. The authorized signatory is Ryan Hale. Emma's throat tightened. That's my husband. He had no right. Those are my savings. Mrs. Lacey's eyes softened. I'm truly sorry, ma'am. But your name, it's been removed. It's gone. Emma stumbled back, the room spinning. Her pulse roared louder than the city noise outside. She pulled out her phone, dialing Ryan with trembling hands. He answered on the first ring, voice calm, practiced, poisonous. Good morning, sweetheart. Running errands. You transferred everything, she shouted. Every account, every cent with my name. A quiet chuckle. Calm down, Emma. You're overreacting. You still have the house. The house? Her voice cracked. The one you forged papers for? His tone hardened. Don't accuse me of forgery again. You sound unstable. Maybe this will teach you to stop questioning me. Her knuckles whitened. You can't just erase me. I already did, he said coldly. You don't belong in this world without me. Every penny you have comes from me anyway. Then the line went dead. Emma's knees nearly gave out. The bank lights glowed warm and golden, but she felt frozen, frostbitten to the core. She turned toward Mrs. Lacey, whispering, Please tell me there's a mistake. The woman hesitated, then quietly printed a paper slip and slid it forward. At the bottom, in small letters, account closed, transfer confirmed. A tear slipped down Emma's cheek as memories came. Rushing back the day she left her art job because Ryan insisted. The day he said, You don't need independence, you need loyalty. But deep inside the heartbreak, something sparked a quiet, stubborn fire. She remembered her late grandfather's warning. Keep the family deeds safe, Emma. It protects more than walls. In her mind, the words connected like lightning. The deed, her maiden name, the estate's original registration. He hadn't known about that hidden vault under her grandfather's attorney's name. Emma wiped her tears. He thinks he owns everything, but he doesn't own me. Lacey leaned closer, whispering, I shouldn't say this, but there's a note attached to one of the transfers. It says, initiated by Vanessa Cole, authorized by Ryan Hale. Emma's eyes widened. Vanessa, his assistant? The teller nodded nervously. Emma grabbed the receipt, heart pounding. Then they both just declared war. She turned toward the glass door and saw a reflection behind her. A man in a black suit watching her leave. The grand ballroom pulsed with music, laughter, and camera flashes. Glasses clinked, champagne shimmered in crystal, and every smile felt rehearsed. Ryan Hale stood at the center, surrounded by investors and socialites, his smirk sharp enough to slice the air. Beside him, Vanessa Cole glittered in a red gown the same color Emma once wore to their wedding anniversary. And across the hall, unnoticed at first, stood Emma Hale alone. No invitation, no escort, just truth burning in her eyes. Ryan raised his glass high. To new beginnings, he declared, voice echoing across marble floors. To the people who truly belong here. His eyes met Emma's. The crowd followed his gaze. The lights glowed warm and golden, but the air turned icy. The whispers began immediately. Is that his wife? Didn't they separate? He replaced her with his assistant? Emma froze. Their laughter rolled over her like thunder. Vanessa leaned into Ryan, brushing his shoulder lightly. His hand rested easily on her waist. You should have stayed home, Vanessa murmured loud enough for those near her to hear. Ryan tilted his glass toward Emma, mocking. Some people don't understand when a chapter ends. The humiliation hit harder than the storm outside. Snow clawed at her face through the glass windows, a cruel reflection of the chaos inside. Emma stood still, spine straight, jaw tight. You embarrassed me in front of my family, she said quietly, her voice trembling but clear. Ryan's smile didn't waver. Maybe this will teach you your place, the guest gasped softly. Cameras flashed. The reporter from the Daily Chronicle, a young woman named Kara Miles, watched closely from the back, recording every moment. Her instincts told her there was more to this story. Emma's reflection appeared in the ballroom mirror. Pale, fragile, small, invisible, worthless. But in her eyes, a spark glowed. She had proof of his lies, forged documents, property transfers, signatures that didn't match. But tonight wasn't about revenge. It was about letting him expose himself. She lifted her chin. Careful, Ryan, she said softly. The higher you climb, the harder the fall. For the first time, his smirk faltered. Vanessa touched his arm. Ignore her, she whispered. She's just bitter. Emma turned toward the exit. Every step slow, deliberate, regal. Like a queen leaving her throne before burning the palace down. The crowd parted in silence as she passed. At the doorway, Kara Miles called out gently, Mrs. Hale? Emma paused. Kara handed her a discreet white card. Daily Chronicle, Investigations Unit. If you ever want your side told, she said quietly, we listen. Emma accepted it without a word, eyes glistening. As she stepped outside, the wind howled again, snow swirling in silver ribbons. She didn't look back. Inside, Vanessa's laughter returned, but Ryan's attention stayed on the window. Outside, through the glass, he saw something, a black car idling under the frost, headlights dim. A man in a gray coat inside, phone in hand, watching him. Ryan's hand froze mid-toast. Who is that? He muttered. Vanessa blinked. What's wrong? He didn't answer, because for the first time, he felt what Emma once felt cold. As Emma walked into the cold night, her phone buzzed, an unknown number, flashing a message that read, I used to practice law. You're not alone. Emma's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. One notification after another flashed across the cracked screen like a storm of humiliation. Unstable wife attacks her husband at gala. Emma Hale caught stalking Ryan and Vanessa. Pray for my family, read the caption beneath Ryan's smiling face. Her breath hitched. Her name was trending for all the wrong reasons. She scrolled faster. Photos of her leaving the grand ballroom were everywhere, edited to look wild, desperate. Fake text messages circulated, online threats she never sent. News blogs called her pathetic, obsessed, dangerous. The worst part? The account posting them belonged to Chloe Adams, Ryan's social media manager, the same woman who used to send Emma sweet birthday messages. Emma slammed her laptop shut, trembling. "He's destroying me," she whispered. The apartment she'd rented with the last cash she had was barely heated. She sat on the floor, wrapped in a thin blanket, the only light coming from her phone's glow. The wind howled outside, carrying the sound of passing sirens. Her heart felt as frozen as the city beyond the frosted window. Her name was gone. Online, in banks, even in charity records. The woman who once hosted galas under golden chandeliers was now a ghost on every platform. Her mind replayed Ryan's words, "You don't belong here." He had gaslighted her until even her own. A reflection looked like a lie. Every time she posted something to defend herself, he countered it with another story, another fake photo, another post about his unstable wife. Emma opened her messages, desperate for a single person who believed her. None. Only silence. She whispered to herself, "They wanted me erased." And they did. A loud knock broke the stillness. She flinched. No one knew where she lived. She crept to the frosted glass window, heart pounding. It wasn't Ryan, it was the mail courier, dropping a thick envelope through the slot. Inside were medical records, her hospital visit after the snowstorm, labeled frostbite, domestic abandonment case. She froze. Who sent this? Then her phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "I used to practice law. You're not alone." Her eyes widened. She typed quickly, "Who is this?" No reply. She leaned back, the paper trembling in her hand. For the first time in weeks, a tiny spark flickered in her chest hope. She replayed every betrayal in her mind. The forged signatures, the cut-off cards, the public humiliation, the online smear. Each one wasn't just cruelty, it was evidence. And if someone out there wanted to help her gather it, maybe this wasn't the end. The phone buzzed again. This time, another message appeared. "Check your email. Start recording everything." Emma opened her laptop slowly. A file was downloading automatically. Its name read, "Proof Ryan Hale Transfers, Confidential, PDF." Her eyes filled with tears as the loading bar crawled across the screen. She whispered, "Maybe the storm didn't end me. Maybe it's just beginning for him." The next morning, a woman would knock at Emma's door, one who once defended others in court but lost everything herself. And together, they would begin to build a case. The pounding on the door was relentless. Emma jolted awake, heart racing. She gripped a kitchen knife, still half wrapped in her thin blanket, the apartment dark, except for the faint orange glow from the frosted window. "Who's there?" she shouted. A calm voice replied, "My name's Clara Reed. I'm the one who texted you. Please open the door." Emma hesitated, the memory of Ryan's threats flashing in her mind. She unlocked the chain slowly, the metal clicking like thunder in the silence. Outside stood a woman in her late 30s, soaked from the storm, a worn coat draped around her shoulders. Her eyes were tired but kind. "You're Emma Hale," she said softly. "I've been following your case." Emma lowered the knife slightly. "Case? What case?" Clara stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "The one your husband built against you online. I used to practice law before my license was suspended for defending the wrong person. Now I help women who've been erased." Clara glanced around the small room boxes, unpaid bills, medical records from the frostbite incident stacked on the table. "You kept everything," she said. "I didn't know what else to do," Emma whispered. "He's turned everyone against me. My parents, my friends, the whole internet. He even said I was unstable." Clara sat down, brushing wet snow from her hair. "That's gaslighting, Emma. He's rewriting the truth until you can't tell what's real. But there's one thing men like him can't hide: evidence." She pulled out a small recorder. "We start now. Recording everything. Emails, receipts, screenshots, property transfers, every trail he left behind. Men like him always leave evidence." Emma hesitated. "What if he finds out? Then he'll know you're done being silent." For the first time in weeks, Emma felt her hands steady. Clara's confidence was like warmth against the cold. Nurse Tanya Brooks, a friend from the women's shelter, knocked gently and stepped in with tea. "You're safe now," she said. "We'll protect you." Tanya placed a gentle hand on Emma's shoulder. "You're not the first woman he's hurt. but you can be the last. Emma's throat tightened. Why are you helping me? Clara smiled faintly. Because years ago, I was you. Silence filled the room. Outside, the wind howled, shaking the window pane. Clara opened Emma's laptop and scanned the downloaded file. Her eyes widened. Emma, this isn't just personal abuse. It's financial fraud on a corporate level. If we connect these bank withdrawals and forged signatures, the authorities won't just arrest him. They'll dismantle his empire. Emma's voice trembled. Then let's bring him down. Clara turned the laptop around. A second document had appeared on the screen, one they hadn't opened. It was titled, Ryan Hale Private Recordings, MP4. The cursor hovered over it. Do you know what this is? Clara whispered. Emma stared, her pulse racing. No, but I think someone wants us to find out. Later that night, as Clara slept, Emma replayed the file name over and over. Private recordings? She didn't know yet that the voice she'd hear inside it would change everything and that it wouldn't just be Ryan's. The laptop screen flickered in the dim shelter office as the storm outside raged with white fury. Emma pressed play on the file labeled Ryan Hale Private Recordings, MP4. For a moment, there was only static. Then a familiar voice sliced through the noise. Ryan's voice. Vanessa, make sure those property transfers go through by Friday. Once Emma's name is off, we'll liquidate the assets through Drake's offshore account. Emma's hand shook. Her breath caught. The voice continued. If anyone asks, she signed everything willingly. We'll say she's unstable. Same story, same performance. Clara's eyes widened. He recorded this himself. Probably forgot it synced to the cloud. That arrogance might save you, Emma. Emma froze, tears streaming silently. He wanted the world to think I was insane. Now the world will see who he really is, Clara said. Outside, snow clawed at the windows, the wind screaming like the ghosts of every woman Ryan had broken. Emma sat back in the chair, her reflection faint in the frosted glass. The cold wasn't the worst part, she thought. It was knowing he'd planned my destruction like a business deal. Clara clicked open another folder within the drive, dozens of emails, receipts, and screenshots. Each one traced the same pattern. Bank withdrawals, forged documents, asset agreements, and fake legal authorizations. This is a gold mine, Clara whispered. Enough to bring down a CEO. A knock startled them both. Grace Miller, the shelter coordinator, entered with a tall man behind her. Emma, this is Noah Lane, an investigative journalist from the Daily Chronicle. He's been covering corruption cases for years. Noah extended his hand, firm but cautious. I've seen the news about you. I didn't believe it. That's why I'm here. I want to help tell the truth. Emma hesitated, remembering how every headline had mocked her. Why would you help me? Because people like Ryan thrive on silence, he said. I don't like silence. Grace placed a warm cup of tea in Emma's hands. You're safe now, she said gently. And you're not alone. Together, they began compiling the evidence, connecting emails, tracing offshore accounts, highlighting every forged signature. Noah documented every detail, muttering, We'll need a timeline, dates, amounts, witnesses. Clara nodded. We need a pattern. Once we prove this wasn't just abuse but fraud, federal authorities will take over. The heater rattled. Outside, the snow fell heavier, turning the city into a quiet battlefield. Emma looked up from the files. If this goes public, he'll fight back. Clara smiled faintly. Then make sure you hit first. Noah's phone buzzed. He frowned. That's strange. He turned the screen toward them. A new message had appeared from an encrypted email. I have the rest of the recordings. Meet me at the old hotel on Winter Street. Midnight. Don't tell anyone. Emma's eyes widened. Who sent it? Noah's voice was tight. No name, but the attachment reads, Vanessa Cole, MP4. The room went silent. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows as if the storm itself knew what was coming. At midnight, Emma will step into that old hotel, unaware that the woman waiting in the shadows, Vanessa Cole, isn't just there to confess, she's there to survive. The wind howled through the open doors of the grand ballroom, sending flakes of snow spiraling onto the marble floor. Outside, a blizzard painted the night white. Inside, golden lights shimmered, music swelled, and laughter echoed beneath towering chandeliers. Ryan Hale stood center stage in a tuxedo, raising a crystal glass. To love, he said smugly, and to a future built on truth. Vanessa Cole, his fiancée now, glittered beside him in diamonds and red silk. Cameras flashed, glasses clinked, and at that very moment, hidden among the catering staff, Emma Hale entered, wearing a simple black coat, her face half-shadowed, her eyes sharp as ice. Slow down into reflection. She paused near the mirrored wall, watching the scene that used to be hers, the same chandeliers, the same laughter, but this time, she was invisible by choice. This was her home, her home. The man who once called her wife was now toasting his betrayal, mocking every shiver of pain he'd caused her. She looked across the room and saw Clara Reed standing discreetly by the piano, phone in hand, recording everything. Beside her, Noah Lane adjusted a hidden mic, whispering, "We're live. The public feed is rolling." Ryan's voice boomed through the hall. "People ask how I built this empire," he said, smiling toward Vanessa. "The answer is simple: discipline and loyalty." The crowd cheered, raising their glasses high. Emma clenched her jaw. Discipline? Loyalty? The words tasted bitter. Her eyes caught movement near the back of the stage. A shadow. A woman. Vanessa Cole. But her smile was gone. Her hands trembled. She was reading something on her phone, a message Emma had sent an hour earlier. "Meet me before midnight. I know what you did, but I also know what he did to you." The music softened. Vanessa stepped forward suddenly, her voice shaky. "Ryan, there's something you should see." Ryan frowned. "Not now." But she didn't stop. She turned toward the guests, her face pale. "Before we celebrate loyalty, maybe we should define it." She pulled a USB drive from her clutch and held it up. "This contains emails, receipts, and recordings, proof of the forged documents, the bank withdrawals, and the fraud he ordered." Gasps rippled across the room. Cameras flashed. Glasses clinked nervously. Ryan's smirk vanished. Emma stepped into the light, removing her catering badge. "You didn't think the woman you erased would stay silent forever, did you?" Ryan froze. "You! How dare you come here?" Emma's tone was calm. "You locked me out during a storm. Now I'm the one bringing the weather." The ballroom doors burst open. Federal authorities stormed in, badges flashing under the chandelier lights. "Ryan Hale," one agent called, "you're under investigation for fraud, forgery, and tax evasion." Chaos erupted. Guests backed away. Reporters shouted questions. Vanessa dropped the mic, trembling as agents surrounded them. Ryan's voice broke through the noise. "This is a setup!" But before anyone could answer, Vanessa whispered to an officer, "I'll cooperate. Just get me out of here." Emma's eyes locked on hers. A silent understanding passed between them. Both victims, both survivors. As Ryan was led away in handcuffs, he turned back toward Emma, shouting, "You think this is over? You don't know what's hidden in that house." Her blood ran cold because she did know, and it was about to surface. The mansion's doors creaked open again, this time under the sharp beam of federal flashlights. Snow drifted in behind the agents, melting against the marble floor like quiet ghosts. Emma Hale stepped forward beside Agent Harris, clutching a folder marked Evidence, Hale Group Holdings. "Everything you'll find here connects Ryan Hale's personal accounts to offshores," she said, her voice steady. But he wasn't alone. From the shadows near the staircase, Mr. Drake, Ryan's longtime financial advisor, appeared in a dark coat. His smirk was calm, too calm. "Mrs. Hale," he said politely, "you shouldn't be here. This is federal property now." Emma didn't flinch. "This was my home. My home." For a moment, silence filled the house. The lights glowed warm and golden, reflecting off portraits of a life she no longer recognized. She remembered holidays by the fireplace, her late grandfather's voice reminding her, "The truth always leaves a trail." That trail now wound through this house, hidden ledgers, forged documents, and the secret vault Ryan thought no one would ever find. Clara Reed, standing beside her, opened her laptop. "Agent Harris, this is what we have so far. Emails, receipts, signatures, and bank withdrawals tied directly to Mr. Drake's authorization." Harris scanned the files. "That's enough to open a full financial crime investigation." Mr. Drake chuckled. "You think a few papers will destroy a dynasty?" Emma met his gaze coldly. "No, But the recordings, the property transfers, and your offshore accounts will. At her signal, Noah Lane stepped forward, connecting a small device to the central monitor in the study. The giant screen flickered to life, video clips, statements, and Ryan's voice echoing. Drake, will handle the rest. If she signs, it's clean. If not, we forge it. Mr. Drake's calm cracked. You can't use illegally obtained files. Clara smiled faintly. They were obtained legally under the name still registered to Emma Hale, the rightful owner of this estate. The agent's radio buzzed. Headquarters confirms. Proceed. Mr. Drake lunged for the door, but two agents blocked him, badges flashing under the chandelier. His words broke into a growl. You'll all regret this. Emma stood firm. You already do. For the first time, she felt warmth instead of fear. The storm that had once exiled her now raged for justice. The woman who had been called unstable, pathetic, and worthless was now the one holding the truth. Agent Harris turned toward her. Mrs. Hale, you just helped us take down an entire fraud network. But this, he pointed toward a sealed vault in the study wall. This isn't listed anywhere. Did you know about it? Emma froze. Her grandfather's words echoed again. If the world turns against you, remember what I hid for you. She stepped forward, fingertips brushing the steel. That's what he was afraid of, she whispered. The vault clicked open slowly. Inside lay a box wrapped in faded gold ribbon, marked with her maiden initials. Beneath it a single document sealed in wax. Clara leaned closer. What is it? Emma's voice trembled. Proof of ownership. Not just of the house, but the entire Hale estate worth $80 million. As the vault door shut behind her, Emma didn't notice the camera light still blinking in the corner someone else was watching remotely. And in a penthouse across town, Ryan Hale smiled through his bruised lip and whispered, Let her think she's won. The wind howled against the glass walls of the city penthouse, carrying the last echo of the storm that had torn through Ryan Hale's empire. Rainwater streaked down the windows like veins of guilt. Ryan slammed his fist on the marble counter, shattering a glass of champagne. They think they've won, he hissed. They think this is over. Vanessa Cole, dressed in silk but trembling, stood by the balcony. Ryan, they have the recordings, the emails, the forged documents, everything. The feds froze your accounts. You should leave the country while you still can. Ryan turned sharply, his smirk half mad, half defiant. Leave! This is my empire! She can't take it from me! He pointed toward the frosted window, his reflection fractured. That woman was nothing before me. A charity case. I made her. Maybe, Vanessa whispered. But now she owns everything. He grabbed her wrist, voice low and venomous. You listen to me, Emma Hale will crawl before this ends. Vanessa pulled free, rubbing her wrist. You don't understand, Ryan. She's not the same woman you threw out in the snow. She has people now. That lawyer, Clara Reed. The journalist, Noah Lane. Even the federal authorities believe her. Ryan's jaw clenched. He walked toward his desk and pulled open a drawer, revealing a small black drive labeled Vault Cam. His voice turned cold. Do you think I didn't know she'd find the vault? Every inch of that house is wired. I saw her open it. Vanessa froze. You watched her? I built that mansion, he said proudly. Every room, every hidden corner. She's sitting on a ticking bomb of her own making. Paul Rivers, his assistant, entered quietly, eyes darting nervously. Sir, the feds are combing through your digital trail. They've traced one of your shell companies to this address. Ryan waved him off. Let them. By the time they arrive, this will be over. Paul hesitated, guilt flickering in his eyes. You told me we were protecting assets, not laundering money. Ryan leaned in close. You think loyalty ends when things get hard? You'll stay quiet, or you'll go down with me. Paul swallowed hard, nodding, but his fingers trembled as he adjusted his watch, a silent recorder blinking red. Vanessa watched it too, her fear shifting into calculation. She stepped closer to Ryan. If they find that drive, you'll go to prison for life. He smiled darkly. Then maybe I'll take her down with me. I still have what matters most control. He inserted the Vault Cam drive into his laptop. The footage appeared instantly. Emma, standing in the vault, holding the sealed document that proved her ownership. Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper. That's my leverage. And she doesn't even know I have it. Suddenly, the screen glitched. The video rewound on its own. Then Emma's voice, calm and icy, came through the speakers. I know you're watching, Ryan. And this time, I'm recording you. The laptop screen went black. The lights flickered, plunging the penthouse into near darkness. Ryan's glass slipped from his hand, shattering. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Far below the penthouse, Agent Harris's convoy sped through the snow. Beside him sat Emma, calm and silent. We're going to end this, she whispered. But not just for me, for every woman he erased. The next stop was the mansion. And this time, Ryan wouldn't be locking any doors. The mansion gates burst open under flashing red and blue lights. Federal authorities stormed in, their badges flashing as snow swirled through the night air. Wind howled against the tall pillars, the same sound that once echoed when Ryan had locked her out of the house. Only this time, Emma Hale walked through those doors not as a victim, but as the woman reclaiming her power. Inside, Ryan Hale stood frozen by the staircase, pale under the golden chandelier. Vanessa Cole stood beside him, her red gown torn, mascara streaked from tears. The lights glowed warm and golden, but the air was tense, sharp, metallic, filled with panic. Agent Harris stepped forward. Ryan Hale, you are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and financial misconduct. You have the right to remain silent. Ryan laughed bitterly. This is a setup. She's framing me. His voice cracked with desperation. Emma took a slow step forward, her voice calm. No, Ryan. You framed yourself the moment you thought you could erase me. The moment felt suspended every second, heavy with years of humiliation. The dining hall beyond the staircase glimmered faintly, its polished silverware and glass untouched since the night he'd mocked her. Memories came rushing back, his voice calling her pathetic. The click of the heavy oak door, the sting of the blizzard as he watched from inside. Now the same door stood open behind her, snow drifting across the floor like justice finally walking in. Vanessa's voice trembled. Ryan, I told them everything. The property transfers, the emails, the forged signatures, it's all true. Ryan turned on her, rage burning in his eyes. You backstabbing liar. He lunged forward, but Agent Harris caught him mid-step, twisting his arms behind his back. The cold snap of handcuffs echoed through the hall. Emma's gaze didn't waver. You took everything from me, my name, my dignity, my peace. But you forgot something, Ryan. He spat the words. What could you possibly have left? She held up the sealed gold-ribbon document she'd retrieved from the vault. The estate deed. Under my maiden name. You were living in my house, spending my inheritance, and you never even knew. His smirk froze. The reality sank in. That's impossible, he whispered. Emma's voice was soft but sharp. My grandfather protected me long before you tried to destroy me. Agent Harris read Ryan his rights as the officers began collecting evidence. Vanessa turned toward Emma, tears glistening. I didn't know what he planned at first. I swear I just wanted to survive. Emma looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, then prove it. Testify. Vanessa nodded. I already have. As Ryan was led toward the police car, he turned to Emma, voice shaking with hatred. You think this is over? You have no idea what's buried under this house. Emma's eyes narrowed. Then I'll dig until I find it. The door slammed. Snow gusted inside, scattering across the marble floor like broken glass. Behind her, Agent Harris said, Ma'am, there's one more sealed room in the basement. It wasn't on the blueprints. Emma's voice was calm. Then that's where we start. As Emma followed Agent Harris toward the basement, her heart pounded. She didn't know yet that what lay behind that hidden door wasn't gold or documents, it was proof of something darker. Something that could rewrite everything she thought she knew about her family. Cameras flashed across the federal courtroom like lightning. The hum of voices filled the air, restless and sharp. Emma Hale sat at the witness table, hands folded tightly, heart pounding like a drum. To her left sat Clara Reed, eyes steady and calm. Across the room, Ryan Hale in a gray suit, now wrinkled and defeated, sat behind the defense bench, flanked by his new attorney. His face was pale, but the old smirk still tried to surface. At the front, the federal judge, a woman with stern eyes and a clear voice, struck her gavel. Court is in session. Case number 318, the state versus Ryan Hale. Charges include fraud, forgery, and financial abuse. Gasps echoed through the packed room. Reporters scribbled notes. Among them, Noah Lane, now an official media correspondent for the Daily Chronicle, adjusted his mic, whispering into it. This is the trial that's shaken the city to its core. Emma's gaze shifted toward Vanessa Cole, sitting across the aisle, her hands trembling as she held a sworn statement. The woman who once mocked her now looked broken. When Vanessa spoke, her voice cracked. He made me lie. He told me if I didn't help forge her signature, he'd ruin me too. He said we could take everything she had. Ryan slammed his hand on the table. You're lying! The judge's gavel struck again. One more outburst, mister. Hail, and I'll hold you in contempt. Emma inhaled slowly, grounding herself. Every humiliation, the snowstorm, the mocking laughter, the cold door was now evidence. She lifted a small silver flash drive from the folder before her. Your Honor, she said clearly, this contains recordings, emails, and receipts of every forged document and bank withdrawal linked to Mr. Hale. It proves he not only defrauded the company but used my identity to do it. The judge leaned forward. This will be submitted into evidence. Clara Reed stood. Your Honor, we have one final piece of evidence, Ryan Hale's personal recording, recovered from his vault. The courtroom projector flickered to life. Ryan's voice filled the room. If she finds the deed, I'll forge another. No one will believe her. She's just the unstable wife I made her out to be. The room fell silent. Reporters looked up, stunned. Ryan's smirk froze, replaced by panic. His lawyer sank back in defeat. The federal judge removed her glasses. Mr. Hale, based on the evidence presented, this court finds you guilty of multiple counts of fraud and identity manipulation. You will serve 15 years in federal custody. A sob escaped Vanessa. Clara reached for Emma's hand. Ryan turned toward Emma as officers approached to cuff him. You think you've won? This house, this legacy, it's cursed. You'll see. Emma's voice was calm. Cursed or not, it's mine now. The judge's gavel struck again, finality echoing like thunder. As the crowd erupted, Noah Lane whispered into his recorder, "Justice for the erased." But as Emma stepped out of the courtroom into the blinding light, a reporter ran up holding a file. Mrs. Hale, he said breathlessly, you need to see this. It's about your grandfather and the real source of the estate's fortune. Emma froze, sunlight reflecting off the paper. The headline read, New evidence suggests the Hale family inheritance was built on fraud before Ryan ever touched it. Emma gripped the headline tightly, the paper fluttering in the wind. Behind her, the courthouse doors closed, but ahead lay another truth buried deeper than Ryan's crimes. The mansion's walls still held secrets her grandfather never meant her to find. The mansion's heavy oak doors swung open once more, but this time not to sirens or wind howling, they opened to applause. The lights glowed warm and golden, reflecting off new nameplates that read, Hale Foundation for Women's Renewal. Golden chandeliers now lighting halls filled with laughter, support, and second chances. Emma Hale stood in the grand foyer, microphone trembling in her hands. Behind her, banners waved in gentle rhythm, and cameras flashed like lightning. Noah Lane from the Daily Chronicle stood near the back, recording every word. This house once represented power, Emma began, her voice firm. But power built on pain crumbles. So today, we rebuild not for wealth, not for reputation, but for the women who were told they were nothing. Because we are everything. Her words hung in the air. Grace Miller, the General Shelter Coordinator, stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. You turned your nightmare into hope, Emma, she said. You opened your doors to women like us. Emma smiled softly. No one else should ever stand outside these doors, begging to be let in. Vanessa Cole watched from the side, her face pale but peaceful. She had been the symbol of betrayal, but today, she stood among the volunteers, handing out warm coats. I can't undo what I did, she said quietly to Clara, but I can help heal what he broke. Clara Reed, steady as ever, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Redemption doesn't erase the past, she said, but it rewrites the ending. The hall buzzed with reporters asking questions, snapping photos and recording video. Emma turned toward the portrait of her late grandfather, now hanging in the restored dining hall. You protected me, even when I didn't know it, she whispered. But now, it's my turn to protect others. Noah Lane approached her with a solemn look. Emma, I finished the follow-up piece, he said quietly. Your grandfather's wealth wasn't built on fraud, it was built on cover-ups. He used shell accounts to hide women he helped escape abusive husbands. Ryan thought it was corruption, but it was protection. Emma's eyes widened, tears forming. He was saving them all along. Noah nodded. And now, you're finishing what he started. Emma turned to the crowd once more. This place will never again be a palace for cruelty. It will be a shelter, a home for the erased. Because from now on, this house belongs to hope. The crowd erupted in cheers. But as applause filled the hall, the lights flickered. A quiet hush spread. One of the children, a small girl holding a worn toy, looked up at Emma and asked, Miss Emma, who's that man in the window? Emma froze. Slowly, she turned toward the frosted glass. Outside, through the drifting snow, a dark figure stood near the gate, motionless. Watching, Clara whispered, It can't be. The camera flash caught the shadow's outline, familiar, haunting, impossible. Emma's voice trembled. Lock the doors. The crowd never saw the man vanish into the storm. Only Emma did. And as snow began to fall again, she realized some storms don't end. They return to test if you've truly healed. The corridor smelled faintly of disinfectant and lilies, the kind they placed beside dying men. Amara Carter's knees ached from kneeling too long beside the bed. Her father's hand trembled as he pressed a worn brown envelope into hers. They'll strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen, he whispered. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere distant, but the storm was already inside her chest. Her phone buzzed. A message from her husband, Derek Vaughn. Don't take too long. The guests are waiting. She blinked through tears. Guests? Her father was dying, and Derek was hosting a party. By the time she reached the condo, their home, the city lights shimmered off glass towers. Inside, laughter spilled through the marble lobby. Music. Champagne. And at the top of the steps, beneath the massive glass doors, stood Derek, tuxedo perfect, his arm wrapped around another woman in a red silk gown. When Amara called his name, he didn't flinch. He only sighed, pressed a button, and watched as the heavy oak door swung shut. Locked. Just like that. Pregnant. Soaked. Alone. Neighbors stared from balconies. Someone lifted a phone to record. Her hand pressed to her belly as she whispered, For you, little one. We'll survive this somehow. Inside, Derek's laughter echoed against the glass like a verdict. What he didn't know, what no one in that glittering tower yet knew, was that the very condo he'd just locked her out of belonged to her. The ownership papers sat sealed in the envelope, still clutched in her trembling hand, signed weeks earlier by the dying father he never respected. And tonight's door slam would one day become the sound of his downfall. Hello, family! Welcome back. Before we begin, please click subscribe. Every single click helps us tell stories of courage and truth. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from. Because when we share these stories together, we remind each other that even in pain, we can rise. The monitor screamed first. Its sharp beeping cut through the quiet hospital room like a warning bell of the inevitable. Amara Carter, 29, 7 months pregnant, leaned forward, clutching the frail hand of her dying father. His skin was paper thin, his voice a whisper barely louder than the hum of the air conditioner. Daddy, please stay with me, she begged, eyes swollen from days without sleep. Grief heavy, her heart shattered. She pressed her forehead to his knuckles, whispering, Papa, I need you. Benjamin Carter, once the lion of the city, real estate magnate and self-made billionaire, struggled to breathe. His chest rose in shallow bursts. On the bedside table sat a golden pen beside a worn brown envelope sealed in red wax. He motioned weakly toward it. Nurse Talia Reed, standing by the IV, stepped forward but stopped when he shook his head. Only Amara could take it. His voice trembled. They'll strip you bare, Amara, but what's yours can never be stolen. Those were his final words. Then silence. The machine steadied, the line flat. Amara froze, staring at her father's frail body, the sound of loss and silence pressing down like a storm. She begged God for one more minute, but heaven stayed quiet. Moments later, attorney Marcus Hale, a tall man in a charcoal suit, entered. His eyes softened at the sight of her collapsed over the bed. He had served Benjamin for 20 years, lawyer, confidant, almost family. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. He wanted me to give you something. He pointed to the envelope. Amara blinked through tears. What is it? His legacy? Marcus said softly. But not yet. When the time is right. Talia sniffled. He loved you so much. Amara nodded, though her voice was gone. She slid the worn brown envelope into her purse, unaware it held the legal deeds to the $100 million condo that would soon define her fate. The hospital felt too bright, too clean for grief. Outside, the pale gray morning sky waited. The city began to stir, buses rumbling, people living ordinary lives while hers had just shattered. She touched her belly, whispering, "It's just us now." The unborn child kicked, a faint reminder that life continued even in death. Her phone buzzed. A text from her husband, Derek Vaughn. "Don't take too long. The guests are waiting." Guests? At this hour? Confusion rippled through her sorrow. Hope sparked in her chest, then twisted into fear. She closed her eyes, breathing through the sting. The timing felt wrong, cruelly wrong. Amara lifted her head once more to look at her father's face. "Papa, you saved me, didn't you?" she whispered. Talia turned off the lights, and Marcus quietly exited, leaving her alone in the dim glow. The envelope pulsed like a secret heartbeat in her bag. She rose slowly, trembling, and walked toward the door. Outside the window, the first drizzle started against the glass, and as the storm gathered, Amara whispered, almost to herself, "When I get home, everything will make sense again." But it wouldn't, because by the time she reached the condo, someone else would be laughing behind its heavy oak door. The rain fell like it wanted to erase her footsteps. By the time Amara Carter reached the $100 million condo, her black dress clung to her skin, soaked and heavy. Her hair stuck to her face, and her swollen belly pressed against the fabric of her coat. She whispered through trembling lips, "Just hold on, baby. Mommy's home." But as the building came into view, her heart froze. The driveway glittered with expensive cars lined up neatly under golden lights. Music thumped through the glass walls. Inside, guests laughed, glasses clinked, and the scent of wine floated out every time the door swung open. It wasn't mourning, it was celebration. At the top of the marble steps stood Derek Vaughn, tall, dark-skinned, his black suit pressed to perfection. In his hand he held a glass of champagne, and beside him, her eyes shining cruelly beneath the canopy light, stood Celeste Moore, Amara's former college friend, now her husband's lover wrapped in a red silk gown. "Derek?" Amara's voice cracked, half swallowed by the storm. He turned lazily, not shocked, not sorry, just cold. "You shouldn't have left the hospital," he said. "It's late. You'll catch a cold." "I was with my father. He just died," she whispered. "You didn't even come." Celeste smirked. "He said you were unstable." Amara's stomach twisted. Betrayal. Lies. Manipulation. Her husband didn't flinch. Instead, he placed his hand on Celeste's waist and said softly, "This is our home now." The heavy oak door swung shut with a deep slam, echoing down the hall like a gunshot. "Derek!" Amara banged on the door. "Open this door! Please, just let me inside!" The wood was cold against her forehead. Inside, she heard laughter echoing through walls, cruel and deliberate. From the balconies above, neighbors stared, their phones lifted. Recording. Someone whispered, "Isn't that his wife?" Another voice. "He said she's crazy." Pity and gossip mingled in the rain. "Pick it up," Celeste's voice mocked from behind the door. "Pick up your pride like the charity case you are." Amara sank to her knees, water pooling around her. She was a pregnant beggar, a soaked, broken woman, but her spirit refused to die. She pressed a hand on her swollen belly. "For you, little one," she murmured. "Mommy will make sure you eat." Lightning flashed, revealing the massive glass doors that once led her home. Now, she was an outsider locked out of the very world she helped build. Inside, Derek's mocking laughter rose again, louder than the thunder. The crowd laughed harder, raising glasses to his cruelty. Amara stood slowly, eyes burning with something deeper than grief. The father's last words echoed, "What's yours can never be stolen." She touched the worn brown envelope inside her bag, still sealed. "Not yet," she thought. "Not here." Her voice was steady now. One day, Derek, she whispered through the storm, the door you slammed on me will be the door that ends you. She turned toward the dark street, each step heavy, each breath trembling. The storm soaked her dress, but her heart was burning. A security guard watched from the lobby, pity flashing across his face. He glanced down at her ID photo on the condo register, then froze. The owner's name glowed under the glass screen. Amara Carter Vaughn. He hesitated but said nothing. Not yet. As Amara disappeared into the rain, lightning illuminated her path like a warning from heaven. And somewhere deep inside that building, a forgotten janitor whispered to himself, they don't even know who really owns this place. The rain had not stopped. It chased her across the city like punishment. By the time Amara Carter reached the edge of downtown, her shoes squelched with water. She stumbled beneath a flickering neon sign that read, Hope Women's Shelter. Inside, the air was warm but heavy with sadness. The room smelled of lukewarm tea, wet clothes, and thin blankets that never fully dried. A few women sat in silence, eyes hollow, clutching paper cups like lifelines. Amara collapsed on a wooden bench, one hand pressed to her belly. The unborn child kicked, a faint rhythm of life inside her broken body. Her phone was dead, her wallet empty. Her husband had laughed as if she were nothing, and the neighbors had whispered, she's crazy. Now she had nowhere left to go. The shelter door creaked open. Nurse Talia Reed, still in her hospital scrubs, stepped in holding a paper bag. She froze when she saw Amara. Amara? Amara looked up weakly. You shouldn't have come. Talia set down the bag. You shouldn't be here alone. Not in your condition. She handed her a steaming cup of watery soup. Eat this. It's not much, but it'll help. Amara sipped slowly, tears blending with the steam. He locked me out, Talia. At my father's funeral week, he said I was unstable. Talia's lips trembled. Your father warned us this could happen. He asked attorney Marcus to prepare something before her voice faded. Amara blinked. Something? Before Talia could answer, a man's voice came from the corner. It was Louis, the janitor from the hospital, middle-aged, quiet, his uniform still damp from the rain. He had always greeted people with small nods and kind eyes. I heard him talking, Louis said carefully. Your husband. He told a banker on the phone that he was selling properties fast. He said the paperwork would be signed before anyone noticed. Amara froze. Properties? Louis nodded. Said they were worth millions. Sounded like he didn't own them. Her heart pounded. She remembered her father's trembling hand, the worn brown envelope, and his final words. They'll strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen. Hope sparked in her chest. I need to find Marcus Hale, she whispered. My father's lawyer. He'll know what my father meant. From across the room, a community woman whispered to another. She's the one from the condo video. People are talking. Her humiliation had become pity and gossip. Amara rose shakily, gripping her bag tight. They think I'm a beggar, but I'm not done yet. Talia caught her arm. You can't go back there. Not yet. I have to, Amara said. For my baby. For my father. Louis stepped closer. Then take this. He slipped her a granola bar and whispered, the night guard at the condo checks ownership logs every morning. If your name's there, you'll know the truth. Amara's eyes widened. My name? Louis nodded. You might be more than you think. She looked toward the fogged window, where rain streaks glistened like glass walls. Outside, the city lights flickered golden light over marble towers. Her voice dropped to a whisper. If that condo truly belongs to me, he just locked himself out of his own life. Lightning cracked again, sharp and final. The church bells struck like hammers against her chest. The sound echoed through the cold marble hall as Amara Carter stood before her father's casket, her black veil trembling with every breath. The room was filled with strangers who pretended to mourn, whispering under their breath, spreading false rumors. Unstable. Dangerous. The crazy one. Her fingers clutched the edge of the coffin. Daddy, please stay with me, she whispered again, even though she knew he was gone. Her father was gone. The man who built her world, who whispered final words about protection and truth, now lay silent beneath polished wood and flowers that smelled of sorrow. Behind her, the double doors creaked open. Derek Vaughn walked in like a man entering a gala, not a funeral. His expensive shoes clicked against the marble, his black suit immaculate, and his face carried not grief but calculation. In his hand he held Grace Vaughn, his mother's arm. Grace's pearls gleamed like frost under the light. "People are saying terrible things," Grace murmured loudly enough for others to hear. "You shouldn't have caused a scene at the condo, dear. My son has a reputation." Amara turned slowly, her voice cracked but steady. "A reputation built on lies." Grace's smile was ice. "You need rest. You're pregnant, emotional, and frankly unstable. We don't want our family involved in more drama." Amara blinked back tears. "He locked me out in the storm, Grace, out of my own home, while my father was dying." Derek placed a hand on his mother's shoulder, pretending calm. "You're not well, Amara. Everyone saw the video. Let's not embarrass ourselves in public." The words hit harder than any slap. Pity and gossip rippled through the pews. Someone whispered, "That's the wife who begged in the rain." Her stomach tightened. Her baby kicked again. She touched her belly gently. "You'll know the truth one day," she whispered to her child. As the service ended, mourners began to leave, but attorney Marcus Hale appeared at the back of the church. His dark eyes caught hers steady, knowing. He gave a brief nod, the kind that said, "Not yet, but soon." Amara's breath caught. There was still something she didn't understand, something her father and Marcus had hidden. Grace leaned in once more, her perfume sharp, her tone colder. "You may have been his daughter, but money doesn't save unstable women. Power does. And you don't have any." Amara smiled faintly, tears catching the light. "That's where you're wrong." The golden pen in her purse glinted as she turned away from them both. Her father's words replayed again. "They'll strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen." She walked past Derek, who pretended not to care, but his jaw tightened when Marcus Hale placed a supportive hand on her shoulder. Outside, the gray sky threatened another storm, the air heavy with unfinished grief. The city began to stir, sirens echoing somewhere distant. Amara paused on the church steps, looking toward the horizon where the towers of Carter Estates pierced the skyline. "Every inch of this city remembers my father," she whispered. "And soon, so will you." Lightning cracked far away, a silent warning. Music thundered through the penthouse like a heartbeat made of glass and greed. Golden light spilled across polished marble floors, bouncing off champagne flutes and crystal chandeliers. Every corner gleamed with wealth, every smile hid mocking laughter. At the center of it all stood Derek Vaughn, in a tailored navy suit, glass raised high. He smiled, like a man untouchable, even as whispers of his wife's humiliation drifted through the crowd. "To freedom," he announced, smirking. "To finally being free of her." Laughter erupted, glasses clinked. By his side, Celeste Moore, wrapped again in her red silk gown, leaned close, her perfume sweet and venomous. "You should have done it years ago," she whispered. "Patience pays," Derek said, grinning. "Soon, I'll own everything her father left behind." From the balcony, Eric Walsh, Derek's longtime business partner, watched quietly. He had always admired Derek's confidence, but tonight it felt cruel. Something about the timing, throwing a party right after Benjamin Carter's funeral, left a bitter taste. "Isn't that the condo her father built?" a guest murmured. Derek turned, voice smooth. "Every inch of this condo was built by my blood and sweat." Eric's jaw tightened. He remembered the old man's kindness and the way Derek laughed when Amara cried in the rain. The neighbors who had recorded that night were in this room too, whispering, spreading pity and gossip disguised as applause. Celeste twirled her glass, eyes glinting. "She'll fade, Derek. That's what happens when women lose their power." Derek smiled. She never had any. Outside, the city pulsed under the pale gray sky, the world unaware that the empire they were toasting wasn't his to own. Eric excused himself to the bar. His conscience gnawed at him. He had seen Amara once, at a charity gala, quiet but brilliant, her father's pride. Now she was being erased. He pulled out his phone and checked a document Derek had sent earlier, property lists under Carter Holdings. He frowned. The names didn't match. "Strange," he muttered. "Why isn't Derek listed as owner?" Behind him, Celeste laughed loudly. "He deserves it all. She's nothing but a shadow now." Eric's hand trembled slightly as he sipped his drink. Something was off. He couldn't shake the image of Amara's soaked figure in the storm, nor the rumor that she'd once been seen with attorney Marcus Hale. Could she still be fighting back? A burst of mocking laughter pulled him back. Derek stood on a table, arms wide. "Tonight," he declared, "we bury her memory. The unstable wife, the charity case gone forever." The crowd applauded, drunk on spectacle. But as Derek raised his glass again, Eric's phone buzzed a message with a single photo. It showed Amara Carter, sitting in a quiet office, eyes calm, a worn brown envelope on the desk before her. Eric's heart stopped. "Impossible," he whispered. The photo was time-stamped tonight. He glanced up at Derek, still laughing. The man was celebrating a victory that had already begun to crumble. Eric pocketed his phone, his expression unreadable. The music thumped, the golden light swayed, and Derek's laughter filled the air. "To power!" Derek shouted again. But Eric's eyes flicked to the envelope photo once more, and then to the skyline beyond the massive glass doors. Somewhere out there, Amara was awake and planning. The storm outside Amara's small motel window thundered so hard that it seemed to echo her heartbeat. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the worn brown envelope resting on her lap. The sound of laughter echoing through walls from Derek's party replayed in her head, cutting through her like glass. But this time, she didn't cry. She opened the envelope. Inside lay legal deeds, property documents, and a letter in her father's familiar handwriting. The moment she saw his name, Benjamin Carter, the world blurred, pulling her backward in time. It was a year earlier. The sunlight had been golden light, spilling across his office, touching every corner of his empire. Benjamin Carter, still strong then, sat behind a long oak desk. His once steady hands held a golden pen, its tip hovering above. Crisp papers embossed with notarized seals. Across from him stood attorney Marcus Hale, his loyal friend and advisor for over 20 years. "Are you sure, Ben?" Marcus asked quietly. "If your son-in-law finds out, he'll..." Benjamin smiled sadly. "That's why he can't. The condo, the shares, the trust, all will go to Amara, not Derek. She's pure-hearted. He's not. I built an empire hidden in plain sight, and she'll inherit it when she's ready." He signed, with one deliberate stroke. The golden pen glided like destiny itself. Marcus sealed the documents into the worn brown envelope, pressing wax against it. "And if she never opens it?" Benjamin's eyes softened. "Then the world will take everything until she remembers who she is." He leaned back, coughing, pain twisting his face. "You'll protect her, Marcus. You always have." Marcus nodded, his voice breaking. "I promise." "But if he..." Benjamin interrupted, voice thin but firm. "If Derek Vaughn ever touches what's hers, make sure the law touches him harder." He handed the envelope to Marcus. "Give it to her only when I'm gone." The office fell silent except for the ticking clock. Outside, cranes moved against the skyline of Carter Estates, the legacy of a man who built dreams out of dust. The flashback ended as thunder roared back into Amara's motel room. She clutched the letter, reading the last line again and again. "They may strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen." Her eyes filled, not with grief but burning now with something deeper than grief. She whispered, "Papa, you saved me." The realization struck. Derek had been selling properties that didn't belong to him. Every signature he'd made, every deal he'd sealed, it was all fraud. Her father had outsmarted him from the grave. Amara rose from the bed, trembling but determined. "I'll find Marcus. I'll prove this." She folded the documents carefully, sliding them into her bag beside the golden pen her father once used. The pen felt heavier now, like justice waiting to be written. Outside, the storm eased to a drizzle, the pale gray morning sky stretching over the city. She whispered to her belly, "For you, little one. Mommy's coming back stronger." Then she turned toward the door, determination in every breath. The motel light flickered once, then went out. On the table, her phone buzzed alive with an unknown number. A message blinked on the screen. "He's closing a deal tomorrow. If you want to stop him, come to Holloway Tower, 10 a.m. Her hand froze midair. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please, take a second to do it now. Every click, every share, every comment helps us keep telling stories that give strength to women and children who've been broken, forgotten, or silenced. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting a channel, you're standing beside survivors, saying their stories matter. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss a story that could change a life. And in the comments, tell us where are you watching from and what part of this story spoke to your heart. The revolving glass doors spun like mirrors of betrayal. Amara Carter stepped into the Holloway Tower lobby, her heart pounding so loud she could hear it over the chatter. Reporters lined the corridor, cameras flashing beneath the golden light of the chandeliers. Across the marble floor, she saw him, Derek Vaughn, surrounded by investors, his arm casually draped around Celeste Moore, the woman in the red silk gown. "Smile," Derek said to Celeste. "They love a successful couple." Amara's voice sliced through the noise. "Successful? You mean thief?" The room froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. Derek turned, disbelief flashing before a grin replaced it. "You again? I thought we agreed you'd stay out of public places." "You agreed," she said, her voice steady, "when you locked me out of my own home." Laughter echoed through walls as Celeste leaned closer, whispering loud enough for the crowd to hear. "See? I told you she's unstable." The word hit like a stone. Unstable. Dangerous. The crazy one. But Amara didn't flinch. She lifted her phone and pressed play. Derek's own voice spilled from the speaker. "I don't care if it's her father's money. It's mine now." Gasps rippled through the crowd, neighbors staring, phones lifted, recording. Derek's smile cracked for the first time. "You edited that?" Amara met his eyes. "No. That's your voice from your own party. Every cruel word you spoke while you laughed over my father's death." For a moment, silence ruled. The mocking laughter stopped. Even Celeste's smirk faltered. But Derek recovered, his voice cold and sharp. "You think anyone will believe you? You look like a beggar at my mercy. Look at you, 7 months pregnant. No money, no home." Amara's eyes glistened, but not from tears. "You made me a beggar, but you forgot I still carry his name." "Carter." Pity and gossip swirled around her. A woman whispered. "She's so brave," another hissed. "He really did that to her." Derek grabbed Amara's wrist, voice low. "You're embarrassing me. Leave now." Celeste's red nails rested on his arm, smiling for the cameras. "Let's go, baby. You don't owe her an explanation." But Amara didn't move. She pulled her hand free. "I owe my father justice." Security began to step forward, uncertain. Flashes burst like lightning. Then, through the crowd, Attorney Marcus Hale appeared at the edge of the hall, watching silently, a folder in his hand. Their eyes met. A small nod, the signal they were ready to begin. Derek saw it too. His face tightened. "Don't test me, Amara. You have no idea what you're starting." Amara lifted her chin. "I know exactly what I'm starting. It's called the truth." For a moment, the world stopped. Camera lights flared, and the reflection of her tear-streaked face shone in the massive glass doors behind her, the same kind that had once shut her out. Hope sparked in her chest, faint but alive. Security escorted her out, but her eyes never left Marcus. He raised a finger to his lips. Silence now. Revelation later. Outside, the storm soaked her dress, but the crowd that had mocked her began to turn whispers of sympathy, not shame. As the doors closed behind her, Celeste hissed, "He'll destroy you." Amara smiled through the rain. "Then he better start soon." She walked away, head high, the golden pen hidden in her bag like a sword. Lightning flashed again, painting the tower in silver. Inside, Marcus opened his folder and slid a set of papers onto a table marked Carter Holdings. The ink on the legal deeds gleamed under the lights. Tomorrow at noon, the city will see who really owns everything. The elevator doors slid open with a metallic sigh. Amara Carter stepped out onto the 12th floor of a small downtown building, the office of Marcus Hale, her late father's lawyer. The smell of paper and old coffee filled the air, and rain dripped faintly from her coat. She wasn't alone. Her best friend, Lena Brooks, a sharp-eyed paralegal who had once worked for Marcus, held her arm steady. "You ready for this?" Lena asked softly. Amara nodded, clutching the worn brown envelope to her chest. "I have to be. This is all that's left of him." Inside, Marcus Hale stood behind his mahogany desk. The window behind him looked out over the pale gray morning sky. He smiled faintly. "You found me sooner than I expected." Amara placed the envelope on the desk. "My father left this." I opened it. "The legal deeds, the property documents, they're in my name. But I need proof that can stand against Derek." Marcus gestured to the chair opposite. You have more than proof, Amara. You have ownership. Golden light streamed in as Marcus unlocked a drawer and withdrew a velvet case. Inside lay her father's golden pen, polished and gleaming. He signed every document with this, Marcus said. It's more than a pen, it's a signature marker. Every document your husband forged will fail verification against it. Amara's breath caught. He really thought of everything. Lena leaned closer, scanning the papers. These aren't just about the $100 million condo. Look, there's Carter Estates, Holloway Tower shares, even land deeds. He built an empire hidden in plain sight. Amara pressed her hand to her chest. Hope sparked in her heart, small but powerful. He protected me, even after death. Marcus nodded. But Derek doesn't know yet. He's trying to transfer ownership to his name by using duplicate files. If he finalizes that tomorrow, he'll trap you legally. Amara frowned. Then we stop him before tomorrow. A quiet voice spoke from the doorway. Realtor Kim Porter, young but shrewd, entered holding a tablet. I work for Carter Holdings. We've been monitoring ownership data. I saw Derek's name pop up in a pending file. It was flagged because your father locked that system with biometric encryption. No one can override it without your signature. Amara's hand trembled as she reached for the golden pen. Then let's unlock it. Kim smiled. You sign and the system updates publicly in under a minute. Every investor, every journalist, every partner will know who the true owner is. Amara hesitated. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. They'll strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen. She clicked the pen open. Its tip gleamed beneath the office lights. Lena whispered, Do it, Amara. She signed. A soft chime sounded from Kim's tablet. The condo's title updated instantly. Owner, Amara Carter Vaughn. Lena gasped. Marcus smiled. Kim's eyes widened. Amara exhaled shakily. It's mine again. But then Marcus's phone rang. He answered, face darkening. What? He's hosting another party tonight? To announce full ownership? Amara froze. He doesn't know yet, does he? Marcus hung up slowly. No. But by the time his guests raise their glasses, he will. Amara's gaze hardened. Then I'll be there. Lightning flickered beyond the window. Music roared through the penthouse like a storm disguised as celebration. The night shimmered with golden light, crystal chandeliers, and the sound of mocking laughter. Derek Vaughn stood at the center of it all, his glass raised high. Celeste Moore, radiant in her red silk gown, leaned into him as though she already wore his crown. To empire, Derek shouted. To power, money, and freedom, guests applauded, their laughter echoing through walls as waiters passed trays of champagne. Outside the massive glass doors, the city glittered like a secret it couldn't keep. But one shadow slipped quietly among the servers. Amara Carter, disguised in a catering uniform, her cap low over her face. She moved carefully, carrying a silver tray, her eyes scanning every corner. In her pocket, Lena Brooks's voice crackled softly through a hidden earpiece. Stay calm. Eric's inside. He'll get you close to him. Eric Walsh, Derek's longtime partner, stood by the bar, guilt etched deep into his face. He'd watched Amara's public humiliation, the neighbors' recording, the cruel false rumors, and couldn't forget her calm defiance. Tonight, he would set things right. When Amara passed by, he subtly slipped a small black device under her tray, a recorder. Hide near the piano, he murmured. He's about to make his big speech. You'll have what you need. She nodded, whispering to herself. For you, little one. Her hand brushed over her swollen belly. Minutes later, Derek's voice boomed. Again, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I make it official. I now control Carter Holdings. Every inch of that $100 million condo, every property my late father-in-law built, it's mine. The room burst into mocking laughter, glasses clinking. Celeste giggled. You did it, Derek. You really buried her. He smirked. She trapped herself. She's a memory now, an unstable woman who got what she deserved. Amara's grip tightened on the tray. Her father's words echoed in her mind. They'll strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen. Eric gave a subtle nod from across the room. Amara reached under the tray and pressed record. Derek's voice poured into the tiny mic every cruel sentence, every confession. It's not stealing if she's too weak to fight back, he said, laughing. A woman gasped nearby, realizing the harshness of his tone. But he didn't stop. He was drunk on arrogance. Celeste twirled her glass and said loudly, "And what if she returns?" Derek chuckled, cruel and careless. "Then she'll see that I built her father's empire better than he ever could." Every cruel word poured from the phone, crisp and clear. Amara stepped backward, nearly colliding with a waiter. Her eyes brimmed not with fear but with fire. She had what she needed. The party lights flashed red and gold as she slipped toward the exit, heart racing. She reached the door just as thunder cracked outside, shaking the glass. Behind her, Derek raised his glass again. "To me," he shouted. "To the man who took everything." Neighbors staring, phones lifted, filming his arrogance. The same crowd that once mocked Amara now looked uneasy. Celeste whispered, "You talk too much, Derek." He grinned. "I always win." But the mocking laughter that followed sounded thinner this time, hollow, uncertain. Amara stepped into the rain, clutching the recorder to her chest. "Not anymore," she whispered. Lightning split. The sky. The reflection of the condo shimmered across puddles like a fortress waiting to fall. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus Hale appeared on the screen. "Conference room, 9 a.m. Bring the recording." Amara looked back one last time, rain streaking her cheeks like war paint. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "the world will know." The conference room was dressed in gold, sunlight glinting off polished marble floors, and a long oak table that looked more like a throne than furniture. The hum of air conditioning couldn't drown out the tension that crackled through the room. At one end sat Grant Holloway, a billionaire investor with silver hair and the composure of a man used to owning the world. Beside him sat Helena Cruz, a cautious board member flipping through documents. At the other end, Derek Vaughn leaned back in his chair, confident and smug. He wore a navy suit that shimmered in the light and a smirk that didn't belong to a grieving son-in-law. "I appreciate everyone being here," he began, sliding a folder forward. "As of this morning, I hold complete control over Carter Holdings and its assets, including the $100 million condo." Grant folded his hands. "You're saying you own it outright?" "Every inch," Derek replied smoothly. "My late father-in-law would have wanted it this way." Before Grant could respond, the glass doors opened. Amara Carter stepped in calm, composed, radiant under the light. Her black dress hugged her frame, and the golden pen in her hand gleamed like a weapon. Derek froze. "What is she doing here?" Grant looked up. "Mrs. Vaughn, we weren't expecting you." Amara's voice was soft but firm. "I wasn't invited, Mr. Holloway, but I own the company you're about to invest in, so I believe I have a right to be here." A hush fell across the room. Even Helena paused mid-turn of a page. Derek scoffed. "You? This is ridiculous. Everyone knows." Amara interrupted, sliding a folder across the table. "These are the legal deeds, property documents, and recordings from your party last night." Grant frowned. "Recordings?" Marcus Hale, seated quietly behind her, pressed play on a tablet. Derek's voice filled the room. "I don't care if it's her father's money, it's mine now." The sound sliced through the silence like a knife. Helena's eyes widened. "That's your voice, Mr. Vaughn," Derek stammered. "It's out of context. She's setting me up." Marcus rose calmly. "It's not just the audio. Every document you've submitted fails verification. The signatures don't match. The golden pen used to sign the real papers carries an authentication mark only the late Benjamin Carter possessed. Your forgeries are invalid." Grant turned to Amara. "So you're the rightful owner?" She nodded. "Since the day my father died." Grant leaned back, expression unreadable. "Then this meeting is over. Mr. Vaughn, we don't fund liars." The humiliation washed over Derek's face like acid. His confident smile cracked. Mocking laughter rippled quietly from the staff outside the glass walls. Amara looked at him one last time. "The door you slammed on me became the door that ended you." Grant gathered his files. "Mrs. Carter, expect a call from my office. We have much to discuss." As the boardroom emptied, Derek slammed his fist on the table, veins bulging. "You'll regret this." Amara met his eyes. "I already did." Thunder rumbled outside a familiar distant echo. Behind her, Marcus placed the recording device into an evidence envelope. "Tomorrow we file for full transfer. He'll be stripped of everything." Amara nodded, her expression calm but unreadable. "No, Marcus, not everything. I want him to watch it happen. Lightning flashed across the glass, bathing the conference room in white. The penthouse was chaos. Papers flew. Glass shattered. Derek Vaughn roared like a pretty lion, cornered animal, sweeping every file off the marble counter. The echo of breaking glass mixed with the thunderous bang outside a real storm had begun, matching his rage. He turned to Celeste Moore, who stood by the window, arms folded across her red silk gown, mascara smudged from fear. "You told me she was finished," Derek shouted. "You said she had nothing." Celeste's voice trembled. "I didn't know she had those legal deeds. No one did. She walked into that conference room like a queen." Derek paced, eyes wild. "She embarrassed me in front of Grant Holloway, in front of the entire board." Grace Vaughn, his mother, stepped in from the hallway, her pearls rattling as she clutched her shawl. "Lower your voice," she hissed. "The neighbors can hear. This family's name has survived worse." Derek spun toward her. "Worse? You don't understand. The $100 million condo, the empire hidden in plain sight, it's gone. All gone." Grace's face hardened. "Then fix it." Celeste stepped back. "He can't. She's the legal owner now. It's over." Grace glared at her. You were supposed to keep him focused." Celeste's lip curled. "On what? Lying? Stealing? Pretending to be a wealthy, powerful, and smug husband when he's just a thief?" "Watch your mouth," Derek barked, grabbing her arm. She yanked free, eyes blazing. "You locked a pregnant woman out in the storm, Derek. You laughed while she begged in the rain. Did you think karma wouldn't find you?" For the first time, silence filled the room. Only the sound of rain against the glass doors remained. Derek's voice dropped, quieter, dangerous. "She stole my life." Eric Walsh, his former partner, appeared in the doorway soaked from the rain, expression grim. "No, Derek, you stole hers." Derek froze. "What are you doing here?" Eric stepped closer. "You lied to me. You forged her father's name. And now the company's under audit." Detective Jonah Miles called. "He wants to speak to you by morning." Grace gasped. "Police?" Eric nodded. "They have your voice recordings and copies of every forged document. You'll be charged for fraud." Derek's face twisted with disbelief. "She set me up." Eric's voice softened. "No, Derek. You set yourself up." Celeste turned away, whispering, "I can't do this anymore." She grabbed her purse, eyes wet. "Good luck surviving on the streets." Derek reached for her, but she didn't stop. The heavy wood door slammed behind her, echoing like judgment. Grace's voice shook. "Son, what do we do?" Derek's breath came heavy. "We fight back." Eric's tone was cold. "You can't fight truth." A flash of lightning lit the room, illuminating Derek's pale, furious face. The mocking laughter that once filled this place was gone, replaced by the sound of rain refusing to stop. He clenched his fists. "If she wants war, she'll get it." Eric's voice faded as he stepped out. "War's already over, Derek. She just hasn't announced the victory yet." Grace sank into a chair, whispering a prayer. Derek stared at the glass doors, soaked in rainlight, his reflection fractured into pieces. Then his phone buzzed. A message appeared from an unknown number. "Court hearing. Tomorrow. Ownership confirmation. Bring your lawyer." He read it twice, jaw tightening. "She's taking it public," he muttered. Outside, the lightning flared brighter, striking near the building. And for the first time, Derek Vaughn felt the true weight of loss and silence. The courtroom doors burst open like the end of a storm. Reporters surged forward, cameras flashing under golden lights spilling through tall windows. Derek Vaughn walked in flanked by two lawyers, his once proud stride replaced by a hollow stiffness. His tie was loose, his eyes sleepless. Across the aisle sat Amara Carter, calm and composed, her belly round under a soft navy dress. She looked serene, almost untouchable. The same woman who had been called unstable, dangerous, and a charity case now sat at the center of power. The judge's gavel struck. "Court is now in session. Case number 5324, Carter Holdings ownership and financial fraud." Judge Franklin, a stern man with kind eyes, adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Vaughn, you are accused of forging documents and transferring assets belonging to your late father-in-law, Benjamin Carter. Do you plead guilty?" Derek's voice cracked. "Not guilty. Those were my properties. She's lying." Attorney Marcus Hale stood slowly, his briefcase clicking open. Your Honor, my client has provided full documentation of ownership, original legal deeds, notarized property documents, and digital verification signed with the late Mr. Carter's golden pen. He lifted the pen for all to see. Its surface gleamed beneath the lights, a symbol of truth and legacy. The judge nodded. Proceed. Marcus pressed play on a small device. The recorded evidence filled the silent courtroom. Derek's own voice, arrogant and cruel. I don't care if it's her father's money, it's mine now. She's too weak to fight back. A murmur spread through the audience. Laughter from past nights echoed only in Derek's head. Now mocking laughter turned to pity and gossip. His mother's words, Celeste's smirk, his empire all collapsed in that single moment. Amara didn't look at him. She stared forward, breathing slow, her hand resting protectively over her unborn child. Loss and silence had once buried her. Now they crowned her with dignity. Marcus turned to the judge. Every cruel word poured from the phone, Your Honor. Every lie, every act of greed. My client's father left her with one truth. They'll strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen. The judge studied the documents, the pen, and the timestamps. His gavel struck again. All assets, including the $100 million condo, shall be restored to Mrs. Amara Carter Vaughn immediately. Mr. Vaughn, you are hereby found guilty of fraud and perjury. Gasps rippled across the courtroom. Security men stepped forward, their footsteps heavy on the polished marble floors. Derek's face went pale. You can't do this. Amara finally looked at him, calm, unshaken. The door you slammed on me became the door that ended you. Judge Franklin leaned forward. Remove him! 2 guards seized Derek as reporters' flashes turned the room into lightning. His protests echoed through the hall, fading into loss and silence. Amara exhaled softly, tears shimmering. Hope sparked in her chest. Justice didn't erase the pain, but it restored her worth. Marcus placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. It's over. She shook her head. No, it's only begun. The judge called after her. Mrs. Carter, the media wants your statement. She turned toward the exit, the weight of her father's words guiding her. Not yet, she whispered. Let them wait. They'll see the truth for themselves. As she stepped outside, golden sunlight flooded the corridor. Reporters shouted her name. The city roared with curiosity. And high above, on the courthouse steps, a news helicopter circled, waiting to capture the woman the world once pitied. The black car door opened, and the flash of 100 cameras exploded like lightning. Amara Carter stepped out, tall and composed, the morning golden light spilling across her face. The same steps where she had once knelt in the rain, begging for mercy, now shimmered under sunshine. Security guards flanked her, parting the crowd as she approached the massive glass doors of the $100 million condo, the place where her humiliation had begun. Reporters shouted her name, microphones thrust forward. Mrs. Carter, how does it feel taking back what was stolen from you? Is it true? Your husband forged the deeds? Will you forgive him? She paused, her hand resting on her belly. Her voice, steady but soft, carried over the noise. Forgiveness is easy when truth wins. Inside, Marcus Hale and Lena Brooks waited in the lobby, both smiling with quiet pride. Marcus, dressed sharply as always, held a folder with embossed gold lettering, Carter Holdings. Everything's been transferred, Marcus said. The condo, the estates, even the accounts. It's all legally yours. Amara exhaled, her eyes glistening. He thought power came from money, but Papa taught me power comes from integrity. Lena nodded. You've come full circle. Amara looked around the marble lobby, the same place where mocking laughter once echoed. Now it was silent, filled with loss and reflection, but also with hope sparked in her chest. She walked to the elevator. The golden pen gleamed in her hand, her father's legacy, her weapon of justice. On the top floor, Grant Holloway, the billionaire investor, stood waiting beside the media crew. His smile was genuine this time. Mrs. Carter, he greeted, shaking her hand. It's an honor to work with the rightful owner. Amara smiled faintly. It's an honor to rebuild what my father began for people who deserve better than betrayal. A reporter turned her mic toward Grant. Mr. Holloway, why did you back her? He looked at Amara, then replied, Because truth sells better than lies. Laughter rolled through the press, not cruel this time, but warm. Amara turned toward the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the city her father once ruled. Her reflection stared back, strong, calm, victorious. She whispered under her breath, "We did it, Papa." The door they slammed became my entrance. Marcus stepped closer. "The press wants your official statement for tomorrow's broadcast. Are you ready to speak?" She turned from the window. "Yes, but not about revenge. About rebuilding." Down below, the crowd's noise swelled again as Derek's name hit every headline. Fraud trial, asset seizure, empire collapse. Amara's gaze hardened slightly. "He wanted the world to watch me fall. Now, they'll watch me rise." Lena smiled. "What's next?" Amara placed a hand on her belly. "A foundation. For women left out in the rain." The golden light deepened as the sun began to set, spilling warmth across the marble. Marcus handed her a gold-embossed contract. "Sign here to announce your ownership." She uncapped the golden pen, the same one her father used, and signed gracefully. Cameras flashed. Outside, the crowd cheered. The very door that once shut her out now stood open behind her, wide and welcoming. And far below, on a nearby street corner, a shadow lingered, watching through dark glasses. Derek Vaughn. His jaw clenched as he stared up at the building he had lost. "It's not over," he muttered. The courthouse plaza was a storm of flashes and voices. Cameras lined the marble steps as Derek Vaughn was dragged out in handcuffs, his designer suit soaked in sweat. Security men surrounded him, pushing back the shouting crowd. Media microphones crowded forward like spears. "Mr. Vaughn, do you regret locking your wife out of the condo? How does it feel losing the $100 million empire?" He didn't answer. His face, once smug, wealthy, powerful, and smug, was now pale and hollow. Every arrogant smirk had melted into loss and silence. Beside the courthouse fountain, Amara Carter stood beneath the golden light of the setting Sunday. Her navy coat framed her shoulders like armor, her hand resting over her swollen belly. She watched quietly as police escorted the man who had called her worthless. Grace Vaughn, Derek's mother, stumbled toward her, pearls trembling, eyes filled with panic. "Amara, please! Don't let them take him. He's still my son." Amara turned slowly, voice calm, but unshakable. "You raised a man who thought cruelty was strength." Grace fell to her knees, sobbing. Celeste Moore appeared at the edge of the crowd, her red gown wrinkled, makeup ruined. She couldn't meet Amara's eyes. "He used me," she whispered. Amara's gaze softened, but only slightly. "No, you used yourself. We all make choices." She turned back toward the cameras as Judge Franklin exited the building. "Mrs. Carter," he said, his voice proud, "the world will remember your composure. Few fight injustice with such grace." The crowd clapped. Laughter, not mocking, but admiring, echoed through the plaza. Amara stepped forward, addressing the reporters. Her voice was firm, melodic, carrying through the sea of people and cameras. "When my father died, I was broken. When my husband locked me out, I thought I'd lost everything. But sometimes life strips us down to rebuild us stronger." She paused, her eyes glistening. "This condo, this company, it isn't just about money. It's about truth. Every woman who's ever been called weak, unstable, or crazy deserves to know what's yours can never be stolen." The applause was thunderous. Phones lifted, people recording, neighbors staring, the same audience that once mocked her, now watched in awe. Celeste turned away, tears falling. Grace was helped to her feet, trembling. Derek, restrained, shouted from the police car. "You'll regret this." Amara didn't flinch. "No," she said softly. "You will." The car door slammed shut. The sound echoed against the massive glass doors of the courthouse, the same sound that had once marked her exile. Now it was the sound of his ending. She lifted her face to the warm light, whispering, "Papa, you saved me." Marcus Hale stepped beside her, smiling quietly. "It's done." Amara shook her head. "No, Marcus, it's just beginning," he frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked at the cameras and the growing crowd of women outside the fence, those who had followed her story. "We'll build something new, a shelter, a home, for every woman left in the rain. The last rays of sunlight framed her silhouette strong, radiant, unstoppable. A reporter shouted one final question. "Mrs. Carter, what will you name the foundation?" Amara smiled faintly, eyes lifted to the sky. "The Carter Promise. Because hope doesn't die, it's reborn." Applause erupted. The city began to stir, bells chimed, and her father's words echoed once more. "They'll strip you bare, but what's yours can never be stolen." She stepped down the courthouse stairs, the crowd parting before her. Golden light followed her every step, and behind her, the billboard above the courthouse flickered, showing her photo beside the headline. The woman he locked out became the owner of everything.